So in the fashion similar to Kristallnacht, I'm exaggerating a bit, but in a fashion similar to sort of following the Jews, going about them, trying to find them, trying to sort of speak to them, and sort of, politely tell them to get the hell out of our country. A few days ago, an Israeli uh, businessman who was on a business trip in Ireland was sort of encountered in the restaurant by two pro-Palestinian activists who started will watch the video, but started talking to him about how he's a Zionist and Zionists are not welcome in Ireland. He needs to get out and he needs to tell all his IDF friends, or as they say, IOF friends, to get the hell out of their country. Um, and that's just sort of another example of the anti-Semitism sort of around the world to the Israelis, but also specifically, I think Ireland has sort of a unique or sort of a much bigger problem it seems to have with Israelis, with the Jews. So today we'll go through some of the videos. He also posted, basically, they recorded him, then he recorded them, and then they also will go through that. But before we sort of go to the first video, joining me today is James Valliant. James, welcome to the Daily Objective. And yeah, what do you make? What do you make of he should get out of Ireland?
Well, you see, the anti-conceptual mentality, as Ayn Rand observed, reduces people to perceptual differences. And so if it's a difference of race, or if it's a difference of nationality, or it's a difference of religion, the more you can identify the other as belonging to this bad group, the easier on this perceptual mentality. And once you've rejected the conceptual mentality, things like racism or religious discrimination are what you're left with as a mental unit. So it's not a question of Israel's policy, it's Israel's existence. It's Jews as such. And as you say, Ireland has, there could be many factors that are involved in this, but Ireland seems to have a particularly egregious problem with anti-Semitism. And it can't be a response to policy, obviously. What it is it's trying to identify the causal problem in the policy difference with some kind of religious or racial difference, and that's pure tribalism. Um, Ireland has a unique context in a couple of ways, obviously. They were neutral during World War II. They, in fact,
Well, they are still neutral.
and
They are not
right,
part of NATO.
when it came to the Nazis, now, and by the way, the extreme Irish nationalist groups like Sinn Féin were overtly pro-Hitler because they were anti-British. Being anti-British will get you to ally yourself with people who are overtly racist. And of course, whether it's in the Muslim world or the Christian world, and there's been a persistent, ongoing anti-Semitic issue for the better part of 2,000 years with Christians, 1,500 years, 1,400 years with Muslims. And in the Catholic world, it's no surprise. Everyone has seen the horrific history of, we get the word ghetto from an Italian word, the way Jews were ghettoized within Italian cities uh, uh, during Christian times is where we get the word ghetto. Now, Ireland, there are other factors. Ireland is, because of its geographical position, probably the least affected by Muslim immigration into Europe. They have fewer Syrian refugees. They have fewer Muslims in general than either Britain or certainly anything on the continent. And so they may be least affected by the negative effects of Islamic culture. Maybe less of that, maybe less of a perceptual reality to them. And so the ancient prejudices of Catholic anti-Semitism may be more at the fore. And I'd make a general observation about racism and tribalism. Very frequently, it's victims of discrimination. And there's no question, if you look at the history of Ireland, especially in the 17th and 18th centuries, British Protestants very much discriminated against Catholic Irish people. And that form of horrible, invidious discrimination caused tremendous suffering for the Irish people. And so it's very ironic that Irish people in the 20th and 21st centuries still look at things. You'd think it's ironic, but actually I think there's a causal relationship. They still look at everything in terms of Catholic versus Protestant, English versus Irish, tribalistic ways. It's one of the odd paradoxes of history that groups that have been victims of tribalist discrimination themselves seem to embrace a tribalist response to it. I can include many African Americans, horrific discrimination against African Americans, Jim Crow laws, slavery, you name it. Anti-Black racism is one of the horrible features of American history. Today in the 21st century, though, you will find Blacks, you'll find African Americans who embrace total racist solutions to that problem, or a racist way of looking at the problem. So it's an ironic sort of paradox, but there may be psychological reasons for that paradox, where a group of people who've been a victim of racism or a victim of a religious discrimination themselves turn into complete tribalists and collectivists in the way they think. But no, racism isn't the solution to racism. Religious discrimination isn't the solution to religious discrimination. All I can say is that Ireland still has some very tribalistic attitudes, and their history has not sort of set them up, let me put it this way, for ongoing anti-Semitism. They have a very small Jewish population. Not only do they have a relatively smaller Muslim population, they have a smaller Jewish population than most other countries as well in the West.
But let's go to some of the representatives of this culture and how they do act when they encounter someone who is Jewish.
Shooting at my country.
What?
That you enjoy shooting at my country, because you also attacked Lebanon too.
We know that you're an IDF soldier from Israel. What the fuck are you doing in Ireland?
You're not welcome in Ireland. You are not welcome in Ireland. Fuck you, and I wish you.
Zionists are not welcome in Ireland. Go to fucking Germany. I'm not welcome here.
I'm not welcome. She's fucking Irish, bitch. She's Irish. She's not a whore.
You're not welcome in Ireland.
You're not welcome in Ireland, and make sure you tell every single one of your buddies in IUF that you're not welcome. Please do. Just make sure you get my good side, please, though. Okay, this is my better side. Fuck you and the IUF, and fuck Israel.
Israel is on its way out.
Yeah.
Israel is on its way out. And you're not.
The Israel.
So those two ladies were Zaina Ismail and Lena Sale, the pro-Palestinian activists. One of them, Lena Sale, how do you pronounce the name? She said no IOF, which is how they refer to IDF, the Israeli occupying force. No IOF soldier or agent of Zionism is welcome in Ireland, and actionists have a duty to expose and confront them if an opportunity arises. So if you see a Jew, you make sure that he knows he is not welcome here. I mean, I think they tried to do that, in the 30s. Not nice things followed after that. But this is what this straight up is. This is maybe overusing the word pogrom, but this is how it starts. At first, you just yell, "You are not welcome here." You say you have a problem with them. You say this is like an enemy thing, and then you start drawing the Stars of David on their businesses, and divorcing people who marry Jews. I mean, this is really it is really despicable. Like. And I'm not even sure what the full story is about how they found out about him. He is not someone, his name is Tam Tamir. He's not someone who is particularly famous in any way. His Instagram has like 3,000 followers. Now, these 3,000 followers, this is after the fact, so there might have been even lower. Now, pretty much all of his Instagram is filled with pro-Palestinian people, pretty much just calling him not the nicest words in his comments.
That's pure racism.
Yeah.
Pure racism straight up on the fact. Now, there's a wide degree of difference of opinion among Israelis. nearly all Israelis, except extreme religious groups, are subject to military conscription. For you to simply say that someone is an Israeli soldier and therefore they
Well,
are
just to jump in, he has like pictures of him from like 40 years ago when he was in the IDF. So I would assume if they really did find him through the thing, they sort of knew he was actually in the IDF. But
okay.
there
So
is
being
no
in the
evidence.
IDF means that you can be that we know what your
Yeah,
opinions are.
obviously,
We know you're
I'm
evil.
just
We
yeah.
know you're see. It doesn't even tell me what your political opinions are. So it cannot be a matter of a difference of opinion. It is simply racism. Even if it were a matter of political difference, right? Then you look, if you were one of these Jews for peace, then would make an exception in your case because we know that you're somehow bravely standing against the Zionist norm of your society, which is itself evil. That is pure tribalism, either way. But here it looks like the most rank kind of racist tribalism. This is the kind of bigotry that you find. And now I grant you they're not engaged in violence on the scale of October 7th, but it's the same bigotry at work, the same bigotry that caused the atrocities on October 7th in a mild form. But you see, once you've made the step over to racism and bigotry, why not deploy force? Why not start killing Jews? Racism itself says that this group as such is in some lesser or negative position. So the first step towards that kind of violence and discrimination is this kind of attitude. And this is racism. This is tribalism. Rank, ugly tribalism. It would be like me saying all Irish people are hot-headed alcoholics, fit the stereotype. And here we are coming to what is it, tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day? In any event, the patron saint of Ireland, his day is tomorrow. But in any case, it would be as if I were assuming that all Irish people were drunks. Yeah, we know you're an alcoholic because you're Irish. Now, the Irish person there would say, oh, that's bigotry against me. Obviously, you're some kind of bigot. They could see it that way. But when it comes out of their mouths against Jews, the way it clearly came out here, they're utterly blind to it. But the underlying thing is the same. Tribalism. It's a kind of anti-conceptual, perceptual level mentality, trying to understand some policy issue through that lens. You can't. When Ayn Rand, for example, in the 1970s, described the dominant culture, Muslim culture in the Arab world today, she was accused of being a racist. She was not. She was making a political, cultural comment. She was not making a comment about all Arabs or even all Muslims. By the way, she was making a comment about the dominant culture there in the Middle East at the time, which is still there. One can criticize a culture, one can criticize a political approach in a non-tribalistic way. This is the tribalist way, and that is anti-conceptual and can only lead to bad outcomes.
Yeah, and that's the sort of talking about the anti-concept of Islamophobia, because it's trying to sort of, there is like an actual aspect of sort of xenophobia or racism, where if you see someone brown, if you see someone wearing a turban or yarmulke or whatever, you immediately have like a thing that there is such a thing, such a racism,
Yes.
such a
There
xenophobia,
are
but it's trying to,
bigots.
yeah, anti-Muslim bigots is sort of like what you would call it, but sort of saying Islamophobia, that you are putting it on the religion itself, that it's sort of like an irrational fear of the religion, not of the people of that religion. You are trying to put in together that any form of criticism towards Islam is that bigotry. That basically, if you criticize Islam, you are being a bigot towards all Muslims.
I'm a
Which,
Catholic phobia. I have Catholic-phobia. I don't know how you'd say it. I'm Catholic phobic as well as Islamophobic. Let me put it
yeah,
that way.
like even with something like
Theistic phobic. I have to say, I oppose the philosophy. Criticizing a philosophy is not criticizing a people, much less being bigoted against a particular person who holds it. That would be tribalistic. If I walked up to every Irish person, or like these ladies did, walk up to someone simply because he was a member of the Israeli Defense Forces and start yelling at him, "You're not welcome here. No one like you is welcome here." They're then doing exactly what's wrong, the fallacious thing, judging individuals based upon simply a group you don't like, their membership in a group you don't like. These are just rank anti-Semites who've substituted judging individuals with imposing the category to which they belong on them as sufficient judgment. No. I've known, for example, Muslims. I've known peaceful Muslims who think that Israel should exist. I've known them. I know they exist. I still don't like their philosophy. I don't like any religious philosophy. I think I'm an atheist. On the other hand, if I were to say Muslim, therefore bad, but if someone connects their Islam with their attack on Israel and all Jews, like Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran do, then they're the racists. They are judging every member of the group indiscriminately simply because they belong to this group. That's tribalism. That's anti-conceptual.
Someone says, I do get a tad anger when I see a Muslim woman wearing a hijab, but only because I look at the hijab and all I see is a slave collar. I feel bad for her. I have an interesting story with that. One time I was going to, I was in London and I was in the metro and I saw a woman, she was with her mother, and she did have sort of I think it was supposed to be sort of like a burqa or something to sort of cover, but like her hair was showing and like her skin was still showing in many places. I'm like, I like this. I want to see more of this. This sort of like, yeah, we do wear it, but like we don't really care. Like I want to see more of like flaunting of sort of religious practices.
Well, it's interesting because when I see a nun in her habit, or when I see a priest with the collar, I feel a similar thing. Now, I understand Christianity has undergone, and the Christian world has undergone an enlightenment, but look, there's still these religious, mystical tribalists, in effect, and they're almost proud about showing it. So when I see a woman wearing a hijab, I see a person who's a victim of a culture. Now, to the degree that that person can think for themselves and overcome it and reject the hijab, or in Europe, where it's far less excusable, by the way, to be sucked in because they have higher educational standards and better ideas that are in their culture, presumably, to still see the Roman collar and the nurse in her, or the nun in her habit, fills me with the same kind of feeling. You're a victim, but on the other hand, I ask myself, to what degree are you a willing participant in this mysticism that you're still adhering to? What's astonishing is the way people still, in the 21st century, still look at things through a mystic lens. And if you're a mystic, you've necessarily rejected the conceptual level. And so you are going to be sucked in much more easily into these perceptual level, or lower on the abstract level differences like race and religion, this concrete bound sort of tribalism.
Now, let's basically, while they were recording him, he started recording them, and a few more things happened that conveniently people cut out from the recording of when she does the recording and when that part is posted. So you might see the first 15 seconds are pretty much the last 15 seconds of the last one.
This is my better side.
Guys, you can take a video all you want. Guys, okay. You're not welcome in Ireland.
How are you gonna not welcome in Ireland?
Yes,
Fuck you and fuck Israel.
Israel is on its way out. Believe me, Israel is on its way out. And you're not
Israeli American empire is crumbling.
I love you too. I hope. Did you just spit on me?
I did.
Okay.
And I actually did not miss.
Can you call the police, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Because this was an attack.
Yeah, like I got spit on.
Oh, I wish I kept recording this. Oh no, I'm a fraud.
Why do you keep recording me, this lady? Like you can be very quiet.
Free Palestine.
Yeah, so that part is conveniently cut out from when people post the sort of her part. Yeah, she spat on him, and she acknowledged she did so, and she even said that she didn't miss. So again, that's assault. That you can't do that. This is not free speech. This is nothing among that. And the Irish police is looking into this case. So I hope she sort of gets whatever is deserving of her. Because yeah, again, this is not. It's not even. I mean, even disturbing someone in a restaurant when they're just eating is already sort of really bad thing you shouldn't do. Maybe not necessarily illegal unless you are asked to leave and you don't leave, which I think they were asked to leave because they were disturbing the people. But yeah, she did commit an assault, and hopefully she does get yeah, punished because of it. Because
if you're interfering with the normal business there, you're guilty of trespass with intent to interfere with the normal business going on there. And it's a simple battery to spit on someone. Any harmful or offensive touching is a battery. Any harmful or attempt at a harmful, if I throw something at you, even if it's a Nerf ball, now it's a misdemeanor if it doesn't cause injury. Obviously, to get up to a felony level of serious crime, the battery has to result in, or at least have the potential of resulting in serious or great bodily harm. But any harmful or offensive contact with you at all, such as spitting, is a misdemeanor battery under English and American law. So the person is guilty of, and then when you add, this I don't believe in, they have hate crime statutes. If it's done for a racist motive, see, if I hate you just because you're an objectivist and I spit on you, or I hate you just because you're, taking a position on a tax cut and I spit on you, that's not a hate crime. But if I spit on you because you're from Slovakia, then Daniel, it's somehow a felony. No.
Yeah, on that note, I might mention it because it was in the news. They actually introduced a new legislation in Italy introducing femicide into the sort of legislature, that sort of harsher punishment for basically crimes against women for being women, sort of like targeting them because they're women. So that's the sort of which I think America does have in some
Yes,
instances.
we do. We do
yeah.
have enhanced penalties if the motivation is hate, racist hate, or anti-religious hate. It enhances the penalty. Now, as someone points out, any intentional murder involves a degree of hatred and anger. If it's an intentional premeditated murder in particular, if your motive is racist or anti-religion, then that's put in a different category than if I don't like you because you're the CEO of that health insurance company. Luigi went and shot horribly shot this heroic businessman, and he did it for political reasons. Is his level of hatred somehow different than a racist's level of hatred? He hates corporate executives or healthcare executives versus someone who hates them because of their religion or because of their race. It doesn't seem to me there ought to be any distinction there. First-degree murder is first-degree murder regardless of your motive. I mean, what if a feminist in Italy went out and started attacking guys just simply because they were guys? She's one of these hardcore maybe she's one of these philosophical lesbians who hates men as such, and she goes out and she starts targeting men to do pot shots. Would that be any different than a guy who's attacking a woman just because she's a woman? There are all kinds of guys who hate women, and there are all kinds of women who hate guys. If that's your motive for shooting, it seems to me that it's the same, and it wouldn't matter whether you're going after them because they're a CEO or whether they're of a certain race, or it's murder's murder. Okay.
Well, let me make a little case because I could see it. I mean, it sort of depends because basically, if you murder someone, if you murder a woman, or let's say if you murder someone of a certain race, you'll still get punished for that murder, right?
Yes.
The only the sort of the hate thing is sort of like would be sort of extra punishment or something extra. I could see it in the terms of, if I kill you because it's you, James, then it's sort of the threat to the other people isn't as much. There is still threat to the other people because I'm a murderer, but if I kill you because you're a white man or something, there is sort of like a higher sort of threat to other people because it was not sort of like direct to you, but is sort of like a broad thing. So
Let me
that was,
suggest-
if I was to stillman the case for like some
Yeah.
amount of like these hate crimes, I think that would be sort of my
Let me
reason.
push back a little bit. If you're capable of murdering at all, even if it's just because Jim did something very particular against you, you're capable of taking your anger out in terms of murder. In other words, any murder is a threat to the community and a danger to other people that you haven't murdered. Any real first-degree murder, premeditated, intentional, or even felony murder, suggests you're already of the mindset that you're willing to commit murder. I mean, racism does indicate you're willing to commit not just this murder against this particular race, but murder as such. Even if it was a financial dispute, I could say, well, Daniel's the kind of guy who in a financial dispute is more likely to commit murder. And people always have a motive. And that motive, if you kill for it, suggests, well, he's more likely to use criminal violence when it comes to that motive. When he gets in a financial spot, he'll murder the person. So let me suggest that you can generalize the category for everyone who has a reason to kill. And everyone who kills intentionally apparently had a reason. So
yeah, maybe sort of more than it being sort of going from that and going it higher, maybe it's sort of like she wouldn't spit on anyone, but she would spit on someone if they are Jewish. I think that's the sort of like thing that I think, like, I don't know how much, like, she's not going into prison even if she gets like convicted of
no,
this, right?
this is not
Like
a prison offense.
yeah.
This is most a modest misdemeanor, battery or trespass.
Yeah, so basically, if like a judge wanted to sort of make a showcase like this is like not okay because it is sort of like racially motivated, I wouldn't be necessarily sort of against it. Now again, I'm not hardcore sort of saying there should be sort of these more of a hate crimes thing or there shouldn't be. I mean, the crime itself is already despicable enough.
Right.
So it's more about talking about should there be like a 10 to 20% up thing. Yeah.
It would seem to me that you should treat like crimes in a like way. So you'd have to be able to say that the hatred motive here was somehow different than the hatred motive of someone who was going after CEOs or someone who has me in a financial pin. But still,
Well,
those are
even in the CEO case, I would make a case for a hate crime because, you know, just like even when it comes to like, you know, it's not just that you can only sort of be hateful towards like someone who has like inherent characteristics
Let me
like
put it this way. Let me put it this way. As a prosecutor, there were plenty of murder cases I saw where I could say with a degree of confidence, this is probably the only murder they're ever going to commit.
Hmm.
And when you're in that situation and you have now, if it is a generalized thing, like you say, then maybe there is a reason to look at it. You're going after a category of people as such, or you're willing to do this, you're more willing to do this again. That willingness on your individual part maybe should make a difference, but that's the line I'd draw. The line I'd draw is, well, this was such a unique situation that you're unlikely to commit this crime again, even against a similar kind of person. Does that make sense?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, like, you know, the crime itself still should be punished. We're just talking about
Yes.
should there be sort of like a higher thing if there is sort of which I would put through sort of like individual rights perspective way. Like, is there like an actual higher threat from this person
Greater
because of
danger
certain
of
motive? Yeah.
recurrence. And the way I
Yeah,
would look at it is the greater danger of recurrence. I wouldn't look at it in terms of, you know, treating people who are anti-Semitic versus differently versus people who are anti-Catholic. And just to take Ireland as the context, if you're anti-Catholic or anti-Jewish, there shouldn't be a discrimination between that. So, for example, if it's looking at your propensity, and this is an objective feature at least, your propensity based on these facts to reoffend, that should be taken into account at sentencing.
Now, Tam Timir, as I said, he's on Instagram, so he posted this video that we played. It's from his Instagram, so he posted that, and he also said in the sort of like a thing underneath the video, he said, "My heart is truly broken. This is Ireland in 2025. During my business trip to Dublin, me and my coworker were assaulted by an organized group of girls for simply being Israelis. Previous to me filming the video, one of the girls approached me with camera to my face, saying my name and basically all the intel she had about my stay in Dublin." So that's the first video we saw. The hotels I moved, the reason I came. It had been going like that for more than a couple minutes with no one intervening. I had to film them so I could use that as evidence to the local police. Sadly, the police only came to the hotel 2 hours after the incident and didn't seem to care at all about the matter. This was an act of pure terrorism and everyone is silent. I couldn't sleep the whole night and locked myself in my hotel room until I moved to another hotel the following day. I will never step foot in Ireland again. Israel Chai. So yeah, I think officially the police said they are looking into this. Now he says they didn't seem too much care. I don't know how sort of Dublin police is when it comes to something like this. Now, if this gets more media attention, I think they will be sort of forced to look more into this.
He points to something that I think is the real danger there. That is to say, the kind of doxing that went on. So they're taking the picture of the guy, saying who he is, outing him in what they think is a culture where he'll get similar treatment from other people. Now, that is a kind of harassment and an invasion of privacy that disturbs me perhaps more than what was, in effect, a minor misdemeanor battery. And ugly comments. No one likes to have ugly comments directed at them. These girls are bigots. They're anti-Semites. They're knuckle-dragging Neanderthals. These girls. I mean, my evaluation of their tribalist, racist stupidity cannot be greater. On the other hand, Dublin police are going to see this for what it is. On the face of it, it was a modest thing. We have to have thick enough skin that, I mean, my God, the things that I've been called, and I've had to overlook it. And it really isn't criminal to be called bad names. I mean, if someone wants to be a racist and say, hey, and for being white, I have been discriminated against, believe it or not, in certain contexts. And I have hold in my mind, being black has been a much worse problem in terms of racism in my country. But I'm not going to respond with racism back at them. And I'm going to be able to have a thick enough skin to say, hey, wait a minute, this is a particular context. I understand that. And people say hateful, stupid, awful things insofar as they do follow it up with spitting at me or doxing me. Well, now then it becomes something you can call the police about. But like I say, the spitting is a health issue in a restaurant. It's you're obviously trespassing, interfering with the business, sort of evict you, sort of minor, fine you and evict you and keep you out of there while you're on probation would be sort of the response criminally, it would seem to me, because it was a very modest, minor incident. The Dublin police aren't going to turn this into a murder case because it wasn't a murder case. It's a case of some stupid, bigoted girls doing gross, offensive things. It's criminal what they did, certainly with the spitting. You've clearly crossed a criminal line there, even if a very low one. I wouldn't make a national case about it, federal cases, we say in America, about it. But on the other hand, I would call the cops and let the restaurant owner know, do you allow spitting in your restaurant? And do you welcome Israelis in your restaurant or not? Because that would be more to the point. I would ban the restaurant if I were Jewish, and the owner of the restaurant said, "Yeah, you darn Israelis, we don't like your kind in here." I wouldn't go back to that restaurant, but I wouldn't from that conclude that all Irish people were anti-Semitic either. That would be a kind of tribalistic response. All Irish people hate all Jewish people. You can't say that from this. And his saying, I don't want to go back to Ireland. Well, I can understand based on an experience like that, not wanting to recapture it. But it would be a shame if he responded for the rest of his life thinking all Irish people must be anti-Semites, because all Irish people aren't anti-Semites. That would simply be a further tribalistic analysis. And you remember what I said in the beginning. Isn't it ironic how tribalism begets tribalism? When you're a victim of racism, you're more likely yourself to keep that racism alive and well within your community against your oppressors, and the people who are discriminating against you. And that's really one of the sad things. You see the very tribalism that Irish people have been victims of historically. You see them now manifesting it against the British, against Protestants, or here against Jews. My pitch to Irish people would be, if you guys really are serious about not liking the discrimination, the way you were treated by British Protestants, then the answer is to reject tribalism. The answer is to reject discrimination based on religion or race as such. You don't fix invidious discrimination with more invidious discrimination. You don't fix racism with more racism. You just institutionalize it.
Yeah, and join NATO, you cowards.
Join NATO, you cowards.
With that, I think we've mostly covered the story. And one more thing to sort of mention, yeah, if you go to his Instagram now, it's all filled with sort of people with the pro-Palestinian crowd, or rather the pro-Hamas crowd, sort of like, he has a lot of pictures he just posts like every day. So you have to scroll down to even find his like IDF pictures from, again, as I've said, 40 years ago. So we don't even know if he actually was in the IDF after October 7, sort of if he came back to the army, or if he wasn't. So again, this is straight up. Almost every Jew is a Zionist, and almost every Jew, or most of the Jews in Israel, have been in the IDF. So this is as racist as you can sort of get.
Simple racism. And when you hear them piling on with that racism, it's clear that it's just rank racism, tribalism. It's very sad commentary on Irish culture today, isn't it? That they, though they have been victims of discrimination themselves in the past, are now some of the ugliest discriminators of today. That's unfortunate. That's sick. That's sad. And I would ask my Irish friends and cousins here on the eve of St. Patrick's Day, when they're feeling all this ethnic collective pride about being Irish, take a look in the mirror. Take a look in the mirror. Your society reflects some very bigoted attitudes about people based on their religious or racial background. And that's always wrong.
Someone says in Ireland they boycott ships, etc. if they sell some Israeli goods. Well, I'm in favor of generally in boycott. I'll never buy Ben and Jerry's. I refuse to ever sort of buy that. So,
but that's that's a particularized thing based on their political stance on something. And I could understand them saying, well, look, if this company that makes cherry tomatoes, this farm that makes cherry tomatoes is but banning cherry tomatoes just simply because they come from Israel. Please, I mean, now you're just being tribalistic in the way you're looking at things. It's not some kind of targeted ideological boycott because I don't want to sanction some evil policy. It's a hatred of a people just for being that people.
Someone said, I will not buy Irish goods ever. Well, if you're an investor, almost all ETF funds and all sort of things are domiciled in Ireland because it has the most sort of beneficial environment for that sort of a thing. So that's why I don't want to say I will boycott Ireland in total. But generally, I mean, sort of, even when it comes to sort of philosophy and the idea of boycott, you should still want to live your life. You shouldn't like, you know, if once you start sort of discriminating on like a super hard basis, you pretty much have to like grow your own food, and even then, it's going to be hard. So I think when you can,
a totalitarian state, I can understand doing what you can not to support them. If it's a difference of opinion, a specific difference of opinion. Now, it might be different for Israelis. If, for example, Ireland's policy about Israel is really out of whack, I can understand Israelis boycotting Ireland. That makes perfect sense to me because of that policy. So long as Ireland remains anti-Israel, we Israelis are going to ban that, in a private ban. Again, I think it would be stupid to set up tariffs, for example, on a basis of a policy difference. Because, as you point out, it's a policy difference. It's not that the entire society, like a totalitarian state, where I would say any helping of that totalitarian state would be a sanction of evil for anyone to do. Again, if that makes sense. But you've got to, like you say, you've got to live your life, and so much business goes through Ireland today in various ways that it probably is impractical to be able to, infeasible to do. I mean, America has all kinds of ridiculous, stupid policies. Britain has all kinds of ridiculous, stupid policies. It would be hard for me to ask for a ban on a similar country because they didn't like some specific policy of theirs and just take it out on all their businessmen, whether they agree with that policy or not. No. If it's a free society, presumably they're still free to change that policy. And there are people there who disagree with that policy. And if I can discriminate, sure, I'll do business with the people who disagree with the stupid policy. But I normally don't have the information or the ability to make that kind of a discrimination, even within a free society. So, but
yeah, maybe there is a whole episode to be done about sort of how to properly boycott, or what sort of the thing should be. Basically, whenever I find out about something I really dislike, and it has to be sort of like a fundamental policy, then yeah, I sort of refuse to buy something, even if I really want to try Ben and Jerry's, but I refuse to sort of support that sort of thing. And there's many companies like that. But yeah, with that, James, any last thoughts on this topic?
No, racism is bad. Judge individuals as individuals, please. That's the only correct. There's no proper moral judgment that isn't individualized. That's my final thought on this.
And with that, thank you everybody for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of The Daily Objective and the reality show. Thank you, James, for joining me, and bye-bye.
Be safe.